Hey Salesforce Hubs, my name is Shruti Amin. If you are a Salesforce developer who understands triggers but feels unsure when someone asks, how do you process 2 lakh records? How do you avoid governor limits? How do you design scalable background processing? Then this session is for you. Today I'm going to explain batch apex, not just syntax but architecture and decision clarity. Salesforce has strict governor limits, 10,000 ms CPU, type 150 DML operations, 100 SOQL queries, 50,000 query row limit. Now imagine this scenario. A company wants to update 2 lakh account records overnight. If you try to run this synchronously, it fails. Batch Apex solves this by breaking data into chunks, resetting governor limits per transaction, handling millions of records safely. That is enterprise level design. Now I will explain the scenario where you have to update the description of the account and the process is asynchronous batch apex, where we can understand the logic behind the code by understanding the 3 methods, that is start, execute, finish. When we start executing the code using Database.Query locator, and when we use get, then it is clear that the SOQL query is part of the description from the account, and when we generate the IDs, the account description should be processed through batch apex, and the description should be updated with this description, and the batch job completed successfully will be part of this method, that is the finish method. Now when we use the Database.Query locator, we should understand that the batch apex should have a parameter, and the get query locator is part of this curriculum because of the Database.Query locator, where we have to fetch the data, then execute the data, and the logic is used in a for loop, and at the end we will receive batch job completed successfully as a message, as a debug statement, and not as a parameter. That is, if we use it as a global string, or if we return the Database.Query locator as a description in the account, that is used by using for loop, and update the scope, that is the parameter used for the list or the name of the list, then the batchable context should be part of this curriculum. Now if we use update scope, we should be able to execute the scope without any error. So start defines the records to process, supports up to 50 million records using query locator. Execute runs per batch, default 200 records, governor limits reset for every execution. Finish runs once after completion, used for email notifications, chaining jobs, logging, reporting. Now how to execute this code? Open the window and type account batch, this is the name of the class, and batch job as the name of the batch, and new account batch, this is the method, and database dot execute batch for using batch job in the query, that is 200 jobs per transaction, and we have to execute this by understanding the statements. Now, the statements which we proceed with should have a list of accounts, and in case the list of accounts are not part of this curriculum, that is, if we use the accounts where I have to edit the page, and I want you to understand that when we edit the page, we'll be able to process the batch according to the curriculum, that is the details of the account should be part of this curriculum, where we can add the right page or the page which we can execute. Now, we have to add the Now, after we add the details of the record, we can assign this to the all and we can save this record. Now, after we save this record, we will understand if the logic has been executed. But if it is executed, then you should receive a notification, that is the notification related to the related to the process record. So in case we add the page, and we save the page and we activate the page, then the process record will be part of this page. Now if we are able to understand the difference between the two process records, we can understand that the batch process, that is the batch. If the batch is processed, then we will receive an update related to the process batch, and we will be able to understand the logic. Now if we add this page, or if we want to understand if the logic is part of this curriculum, and if we want to debug this page, then we can understand by opening the logs. And in the logs, if the batch is completed successfully, then we are able to understand the difference between the logic. Now if the batch size is 200, smaller batch is safer, larger batch is faster. Architecture is not about choosing wisely. Scenario: 2 lakh records and the update should be processed using API call what's required. Summary email after completion. Correct architecture: schedule apex calls batch. Batch process records, finish, sends, summary. This is scalable system thinking. Now if we want to process the batch by using the stateful method, that is the method which is part of the process and not the curriculum. That is, if we use stateful in the batchable apex class, then the total number of records should be generated in the summary, that is the debug logs, and the total process records should be part of the scope. That is, if we are able to select the ID from account, that is the SQL query, and the database get query locator is part of this curriculum. So this is a mistake which you make. When you are part of an interview, you should understand, you should explain the SQL query as fetch the records from the SQL query instead of reading the line of code. Now if we are able to understand this logic, that is the total records are processed by using stateful method, then without database stateful variables reset per batch. That's an important interview differentiator. If interviewer asks when will you use batch instead of queuable, your answer should be batch, large data volume that is millions of records will be used, and the queuable will be part of the medium process, and batch reset limits per chunk supports stateful processing that shows maturity. Now, if you found this explanation valuable, like this video, share it with a serious Salesforce learner, subscribe to structured architecture focused Salesforce content. Your support helps this reach disciplined learners. I'm sorry, I have cold, and I want my viewers to pray that I recover soon. And if you want structured hands-on learning, admin and developer batches are starting from tomorrow. Only 6 per batch to ensure focus, mentoring and doubt clarity. Seats will not be increased. I do not guarantee placement. I guarantee structured knowledge and execution clarity. If you are a serious learner, or if you are serious about upgrading your Salesforce skills, this is your moment. Message me now to secure your seat to 80008050030007. This is Shruti MN. Structured learning is part of the random preparation. See you there. See you inside the batch. Thank you.